Okay, so let's talk about global shipping. Right now, it's going through maybe the biggest shakeup since we stopped using sails and started using steam engines.
What?
Seriously. And it's all because of the IMO's, that's the International Maritime Organization, their big 2023 climate strategy. These goals that used to feel, way off in the future, they're not anymore. They're here and they're mandatory. So yeah, let's get right into it. So let's put you in the driver's seat for a second. Imagine this. You own a ship, a huge, multi-million-dollar asset, and you just got the news. It's been slapped with an E rating for efficiency. That's the absolute worst grade you can get. And trust me, this is so much more than a bad report card. This single letter kicks off a chain reaction of problems that can literally stop your entire operation dead in its tracks.
Oh, man.
And that chain reaction I mentioned, it happens fast. I mean, the second that E rating becomes official, the dominoes start to fall. First thing, you are now legally on the hook to create and submit a super detailed corrective action plan. And if you can't get that plan approved, well then your ship's statement of compliance, it's gone, invalid. And what happens without that? Port State Control can and will detain your ship. It's stuck, it can't go anywhere. And just to be clear, this isn't some friendly suggestion. This is a cold, hard, legally binding process.
But here's the crazy part. As serious as all that legal stuff sounds, that's often the slowest part of your nightmare. Because in the real world, in today's market, the business and financial pain, that hits you almost instantly, and it hits hard.
Just look at this. A bad rating basically poisons every single part of your ship's ability to make money. The big-name charterers? Nope, they won't touch your ship with a 10-foot pole because it messes up their own green credentials. Your ship's resale value? It doesn't just dip, it falls off a cliff. It becomes what people in the industry are calling stranded tissue, an asset that's basically worthless. And it doesn't stop there. The greener ports, they're gonna hit you with massive extra fees. And trying to get a loan or insurance? Good luck. Banks and insurers look at your ship and just see a massive high-risk liability.
So, okay, that's the what happens. But how does a ship even get into this kind of mess? Well, let's pull back the curtain on the system behind all these consequences. It's called the Carbon Intensity Indicator, or CII for short.
Okay, so this is the part you really need to get. It's actually pretty simple. There are only two ways you get flagged as non-compliant. Two triggers. You either get a D rating 3 years in a row, or you get just one single E rating. That's it. 3 Ds or 1 E. Either of those things happens, and bam, you are automatically forced into that whole corrective action plan mess we just talked about.
And don't think this corrective action plan is just some box-ticking exercise. No way. It's a full-blown, legally required rewrite of your ship's official efficiency plan. You have to prove, on paper, exactly what you're going to do to get that ship's rating up to a C or better. And you can't just promise you'll do it. It has to be officially signed, sealed, and delivered, approved by your flag state.
All right, so we've been deep in the weeds with the ratings and the penalties. But all of this is really just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. So let's zoom out for a minute and look at the IMO's grand plan. This is the roadmap that's pushing the entire industry towards a net zero future.
This whole strategy is built around 3 really important dates, 3 key milestones. You've got these major checkpoints coming up in 2030, then another big one in 2040, and it's all building towards the finish line, getting to net zero emissions for all of international shipping right around 2050. So the first big hurdle is 2030. That's right around the corner. By then, the whole industry has to cut its total greenhouse gas emissions by at least 20%, compared to where they were back in 2008. And that's the minimum. The real push is to get to 30%. And after 2030, man, the ramp gets really steep. By the time we hit 2040, that reduction target skyrockets to a minimum of 70%, with the real goal being 80%. I mean, just think about that jump. It really shows you how fast things have to change.
Now this, right here, is one of the absolute game changers for that 2030 checkpoint. See, it's not just about cutting emissions overall. It's about forcing a fundamental change in what fuels these ships. By 2030, at least 5%, and they're really hoping for 10%, of all the energy that shipping uses has to come from zero or near zero emission fuels. We're talking green methanol, ammonia, that kind of stuff. And this is a massive deal because it's the rule that's designed to force the entire green fuel supply chain into existence.
Okay, so that's the long-term vision. But let's bring our focus back down to earth, to what's happening right now. Because the next big wave of mandatory rules, it's hitting between 2027 and 2028. It's just around the corner. So The way the IMO is going to enforce all this is with what they call a basket of measures. A good way to think about it is like a 1-2 punch. First, there's a technical punch, a rule that limits how dirty your fuel can be. And then there's the economic punch, a mechanism that makes you pay for the emissions you produce.
Okay, so that technical punch is called the Global Fuel Standard, or GFS. All it does is set a maximum limit on the GHG intensity of marine fuels, which is just a fancy way of saying how much pollution is created for every bit of energy you use. And this isn't some far-off idea. Starting in 2028, it gets very real. There will be a mandatory 4% cut in the carbon intensity of the fuel ships are allowed to use.
And this right here just shows you how the screws are tightening year after year. The reduction factors, the numbers that decide your CII rating, they get tougher every single year. You can see the required improvement jumps from over 13% in 2027 to more than 16% in 2028. The key takeaway, standing still is actually moving backwards. You have to get better every single year just to keep up.
So, what's the bottom line here? What does all this add up to? It's simple, really. We are watching a historic, non-negotiable, and incredibly fast modernization of the entire global shipping fleet. It's happening right now.
And if there's one thing you take away from this, it's this. The next 24 months are everything. This period, right now, leading up to those 2027 and 2028 deadlines, this is it. This is the critical window. The choices you make, the investments you put into modernizing your fleet over these next 2 years, they will literally decide who wins and who loses for the next 20 years.
So that leaves just one last big question for pretty much everyone in this industry, every owner, every operator, every charterer. The rules are no longer theoretical. The market is already moving. The clock is absolutely ticking. So you have to ask yourself, is your fleet actually ready for what's coming, or is it about to become a floating relic of the past?